It's time for the Legion After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. We are talking Season 1, Episode 6, Chapter 6. We are almost done with the season. Stick around.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello and welcome to the Legion After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. If you have not already, go to youtube.com/AFTERBUZZ-TV. Hit subscribe. We are also on iTunes and SoundCloud. Subscribe there as well. I'm your host, Yael Tygiel. I'm joined by a lovely full panel. Rick is here.
Yep, I'm me. I'm not anybody else. I'm not 31 flavors of waviness. I'm not Kari Lane, but I'm me. And you can find me on all social media at Rick Hong, RICKHONG.
And Kari Lane is here.
I know, right? I was like, and I'm Kari Lane. Hey, how's it going? My name's Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D. Lane, and we are live in the chat. And I love that you guys are talking a lot. So if you're watching this later, comment down below. And if you're live, feel free to chat with us.
Awesome. And Adrian Snow.
Hello, hi, I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow, and that's MSADRINSNOW.
Wonderful. What a fun episode.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Again, this is now the second episode that was like chronological-ish.
Yeah.
As most that it can be.
Yep.
Which I liked. It was I find it easier to follow.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you all think of this episode altogether, Rick?
You know, it's I was thinking about the directing for this episode because it's almost like a throwback to episode 1, the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if like the director, like, Noah Hawley sits there and goes back and says, okay, how did I shoot this? Because like some of the scenes are very similar. It's just there's some body swapping and but I love it. I mean, what's cool too is I tweeted out to most of the people, but season 2. They've already picked it up for season 2, so that says something about how the show's doing.
Way to announce the news before we get to the news segment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I also want to point out this episode.
AFTERBUZZ TV.
It's been renewed for a second season, guys. That's what that sound key was. I just want to point out this episode was directed by Ahiru Morai, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was not directed by
Right.
same man. Kari, what'd you think?
I loved it, and even though it was a different director, you could still get, I agree, similar vibe to the pilot, and a lot of interesting little things, and it was fun watching with Adrian. She picked out a lot of those little things. But other bits were interesting, because even if it was strange, other parts maybe it made more sense as the episode went on, because you kind of went on that journey of like, wait, what is going? Oh, okay, I get it. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, Adrian, what'd you think?
I liked it a lot. I mean, I love the show so much because it constantly keeps my brain going. I don't ever really zone out because I'm like, if you zone out, then you miss out on something.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so you kind of have to be like, oh, what's happening? Oh, am I supposed to get this reference? So I really enjoyed this episode in particular because there were a lot of things that they were kind of doing in the background that, and not just for like other people, but in general, that was like, oh, that's something that I'm catching on to.
Yeah, every episode this season so far, we've been like, oh, did you notice that tiny thing in the background that you may have missed that was something huge?
Yeah.
And this episode, you picked up a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, so because they're not in an actual asylum, like they're in David's mind, within their own minds, and all this kind of crazy stuff.
They're trapped everywhere.
They're trapped in like layers upon layers of consciousness. And I kind of picked up on something, we'll get there eventually, but I noticed in the scene with Kari and Kari as they're walking down, he pulls out the scarf. There was another man who was crossing behind them that had a scarf that he was dragging. I was like, oh, that's weird. There's a guy that looks kind of like Kari wearing the same sweater doing a scarf. And then when I came to take a look at other Kari, there was another woman that walked past that looked exactly like her in the same outfit. So I assume that what the yellow-eyed devil was doing was creating versions of them in the background to give them like to make
Other people.
a feeling of other people there, but it's just really them like slightly altered.
Yeah, he wasn't original enough. He's like, I'll just copy them.
He's like, I just don't have time for this.
Well, yeah, I mean, he took Rudy.
Well, he said it's work.
Yeah.
He goes, it's too much work.
But he took Rudy, brought him in there, and just was like, well, I don't know what to do with this guy. Let him drool.
I think
in the
Rudy
corner."
might be dead, and
Yeah.
that's why Rudy is that way. It's because Rudy is on the verge of death, if not already dead.
Right.
And that's
Right.
why
Really
he's like,
That makes sense.
yeah.
I want to start with the first therapy session that we have with Dr. Busker, which I love this so much. Having Lenny being like, well, here's your problem.
Yes.
That was so fun. Especially the Karis. I loved that. It was so cute.
Made me love them even more.
It made me also realize how much younger and smaller
Yes.
female Kari is.
Yes.
I was like, oh my god, wait, how old are you? Because I've never really seen them side by side like that. Because you just can't.
I think she also looks really young too. I mean,
Yeah.
A couple people in the chat room pointing out the director directed a bit of Atlanta, and they were getting an Atlanta vibe.
Oh, now see, and that's a show I haven't watched yet.
I've only seen the first 3 episodes.
Great.
I'm trying to track it down.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, totally agree. He seems so much, but they seem. It was like weirdly adorable that you're like, well, because they point out like, well, this is unhealthy, and they're like, no, but it's not. And you're like, I like it, but it's almost weird.
And we can finish each other's sentences.
Yeah, that's great.
It was
That's
such a
cute.
cute, because they are the same person. It was like really cute to see them interacting in a non-life threatening, like we're not fighting something right now, we're just hanging out and being adorable and taking care of each other. And that was really nice to see. The idea that Ptonomy thinks that he might be a time traveler.
Yes.
And that's just so
cute.
focused about memory in the past. I love
So
that.
then here's so we've been discussing it. What is the time period for this show? He brings up 99 Luftballons, which is Nena, and that's from the 80s. Isn't that song from the 80s? Like that song's from the 80s. So it's but we've been thinking, is a show like late 60s? Is it 70s?
So we've had lots of discussions about the time period, and I think that it's been established that there is no time that is outside of time, and I think we're gonna let it live there.
Yeah. It's one of those it is and isn't, so it's one of those there's too many things to be like.
Right, because we've been doing calculations pretty much every episode.
Yeah.
So
I would say, maybe the early 80s, just from this episode. And that's it.
Per the 60s were 20 years ago, but.
Or, the 90s, or maybe the
we're
early
moving
odds.
on.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
Done, yes.
Just
done
messing
with
with you guys.
The therapy sessions were absolutely, I'm sorry, they were my favorite part of this episode because they were just so fun.
And it was also just very telling of like who they are in their real lives and where their powers manifest from. Even with the Eye and his like power hungriness, like that was his backstory. He was
And he was
talking about.
funny. Because he's just menacing throughout the
No,
series.
he's just creepy.
Yeah, but he was
He's still super
but I was like
No.
laughing. I was just like, oh, it's like he's actually got some thought.
his
And
He was only creepy in his interview session.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
funny.
yeah.
Sorry, he was funny in the interview
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
that was what was cool to
Yes.
see.
Well, yeah, to hear that like this poor boy was bullied, and so now he grew up to be a bad
boy.
guy.
Oh no!
So silly.
How typical of you.
All right, I have some
No, I'm
questions.
joking. I'm joking.
Why? Okay, so the pie. This really bugged me. Why
Cherry
can't David?
pie.
Why can't David have pie? Amy wouldn't let David have pie. Why?
I couldn't figure that out either. I also couldn't figure out why Amy was acting that way.
So I thought about why I wrote, why is Amy such a bitch? And I think that it's because right when David sees the door, she shows up to distract him.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why she's being a bitch.
But wasn't she a bitch before that?
No, she like pitied him and took care of him because she was the big sister.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost as if something's infiltrated her because it doesn't seem like Amy. It just doesn't seem like her.
Oh yeah, she seems super different. It's like some of the other characters make sense of their behavior, but hers was like,
Yeah.
What?
Even her like molesting Sid. At the
oh,
top
that
of
was so
everything.
weird too.
It was kind of like, well, what's going on with Amy?
Yeah.
I believe
Everyone else is kind of
everyone else is a patient and is themselves stuck in this hell. And she's
so you
she's not
think
there.
She's like a nurse or something.
Yeah,
or...
she's staff. I think that
she's orchestrated and
yeah, her brain is not her own.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why she's being a bitch. I just don't understand why he couldn't have pie.
Well, something that my girlfriend caught when I was watching it, because she had just rewatched the pilot, she said that Sid actually can't eat cherries or oranges or something to that effect. That's what she says in the pilot.
Oh.
So when she was watching like that scene, she's like, she can't have that.
Oh.
So I don't know what the correlation 100% was, but it was interesting that she had caught that. But you have to go back and watch the pilot to kind of get that subtle reference.
For his sister, Eric in the chat says it's David's own self-doubt. I would go with that because her behavior towards him, like that you're not wanted. I was like, oh, that totally is like a thing you tell yourself kind of moment. So,
or that he can't have the pie when he so much wants the pie.
But the way that she felt up Sid was kind of the way that like.
Well, if that felt like
the
part
way
of David's darker personalities.
I felt like it was part of the demon.
It could be.
I thought so as well.
Well, there seems to be a debate too in the chat of like who's made this environment. Because in a way, you could argue for both that it's a safe space that David made / a prison that the demon Shadow King has created to stop everybody. Because and then it's also the astral plane is part of it. So there's a few places intersecting here.
Yeah, so I want to get to Oliver's appearance. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit more about the Caris and how when Sid asks Boy Carrie, what, how is there a door that's sometimes there and sometimes isn't? And his response is like, here are ways that it works.
Anytime the fourth dimension is brought up in life, I get super geeked because I just think it's a really awesome concept of another space that we just can't see. So when he said that, I was like, oh, that'd be so interesting. I wonder if maybe Lenny's like a fourth dimensional being. That'd be really cool. So maybe they'll play with that. Because the other two, whatever, who cares? But that was like the theory that I was like really into.
But I like the idea that he can explain that. And then when Carrie, when he comes out of the bathroom and taps her on the shoulder, and her reflexes kick in. I was like, they're still in there.
Yeah,
they're in there.
Even with Petonomy, you see like when he's even talking about his life with Lenny at the top. I'm like, that's what I wrote down. I was like, oh, they're still all there.
Right.
They're just trapped in this type of mindset. Even with
and Petonomy when he's in his dream.
Exactly.
And then turns out he's in the memory.
And even with Melanie, with how she keeps thinking about Oliver and wanting to get back to Oliver, that's just that kind of, I don't know her powers.
Yes. We still don't know what her powers are.
Which one?
Melanie.
Yeah, everybody was asking, what's her powers?
She runs the Institute.
Yeah, sure.
She's the new Moira.
I just thought it was weird that Carrie didn't have any of those reflexes really when she was in the room with the eye.
I think I want to argue that it's when she was surprised she has the reflexes. But when someone is approaching her and she is not herself, she just reverts to basic instinct, which is
but she still did flight eventually.
Right.
Yeah. Then that makes sense because the other one was a reflex rather than like
what do I do in this?
And he did shoot her. And
what I was thinking is that he hurt her previously, so there's kind of there's a trauma there that prevents her from doing that.
And the other Carrie wasn't around either, so she could be weaker.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because she was in like spastic mode running around when he's not there too.
Yeah. Can we talk about Walter? The eye has a name.
I know.
Yes.
I was like, oh,
Walter. And his attack on Carrie.
He's just creepy. Man.
He walks in and it felt, I'm going to say it.
An apple.
I host the SVU after show and I got to say it felt rapey. He came in and he was like, you're young, but not too young. Thank you.
That's
accurate
awesome.
use of that sound effect.
Yeah. I mean, even when he came in and he was eating the apple, there's just something like the way he speaks. There's something very like Snake in the Garden of Eden type crap going on there, because it was just so creepy and how he came up and he like slithered up to her and and then he zipped her up, which was that was weird.
That's weird.
Yeah.
It was so confusing because he went and he touched her zipper and I went, okay, this is getting rapey, and then he went the opposite direction. I went, well, that's a weird way to rape someone. But I don't judge.
Oh no.
I'm kidding. Sorry, this is not the SVU after show. This is not a perfect jokes. Moving on.
Jeanette. Jeanette in the chat says Walter's interaction with Carrie was very unsettling. It's not unheard of to freeze in this situation. So, yeah, that's very true too. That she just just freeze. It just felt semi-contrary to her other abilities, but she's not at her fighting 100% at all.
Yeah.
So.
And the fact that we then hear later on, which we will get to Lenny, that Walter understands the power, that's all that matters. So the fact that like Lenny has teamed up with Walter is really scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes me wonder how that happened.
Understanding.
Absolutely. So Sid, who is skeptical of everything, discovers, I'm calling it the gross wall hole because I don't know what to call it.
The ooze.
The ooze thing. Yeah, that was so weird.
Well, was it ooze or was it blood?
It was blood.
I thought it was
Probably
blood. So I thought maybe it was the bullet wound of
Sure.
Ooh, yeah.
that was coming.
Of course, standard stupid human thing. I'm going to touch it with my
Yeah,
finger.
of course, yeah.
Poke it with a stick, not your
Seriously.
skin and your finger.
Ow.
I'm sorry,
Seriously.
but if something's moving in the wall and blood's coming out of it,
Well, the
maybe
blood hadn't come out till she touched
You're gonna
it.
go ahead and be like, hey?
Don't touch it.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
touch
For a
it.
woman who
Sorry.
doesn't enjoy being touched,
Touch? Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're the first one to
Yeah.
stick your finger in that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That's pretty funny.
It's a no-go.
If anything, like, shouldn't she have pulled her sleeve out and done it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A couple people are mentioning how Walter was going to eat her, not in any, no pun intended.
Yeah, he did. See, she said,
Yeah.
I bite, and he said, me too. And then he said, oh, I have the quote. I have the quote. Damn it, Walter. Oh, where did I write it? Did you ever eat an animal that was still living?
Yes.
Which also made me think that it's not just a sexual thing for him, even
Right.
though that's how it's coming off to us. It seems like maybe I had the crazy dream about a cannibal, so this would be fitting. But maybe he's a cannibal. Maybe that's what he does.
I mean,
Something
we've
about.
seen that, like, he carves wolves and stuff, and maybe he is part wolf or something.
Maybe.
Some people mentioned wolf something in the chat.
Yeah, because he did say, my, what big
He
eyes
can
you have.
shift.
Yeah,
He can
did.
shift? Oh, he can shift it to people. So maybe
We
he
don't
can-
know if he could do animals.
That's true, we don't.
And we still haven't figured out the dog in the beginning, the pilot.
Oh, that's King, which is
So
okay.
the dog
Lenny.
the yellow
is
devil.
Lenny, is the yellow-eyed demon,
Yes.
is
Demon.
the Shadow King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Got
may be
it.
devil. I'm mixing up my shows.
It's okay.
All right, so I want to take a second and thank the fans. Thank you all so much for being here. Yay!
Yes.
Thank you to the lots of people in the chat right now. And thank you to everyone who goes to iTunes and subscribes. We really appreciate it. We clearly really love this show because we're doing it in the middle of the night. So we love this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask you to do a very simple thing. Go to iTunes, subscribe. That way you don't miss a single episode. There are only 2 more left. You don't want to miss it. Rate and review. If you like us, you can give us 5 stars. If you don't like us, you can give us 4 stars. The other stars, they don't work. But if you're going to give us the 4 stars, please leave a comment as to why. Why? And we will read the comments live on the air. That is a gift that we give you. If you take the time to write it, we will read it. There are no new reviews, so go and write something. Even just put emojis, and we'll do it. Okay. Let's talk
act them
about.
out.
Yeah, we will. So Sid gets her music therapy from Dr. Busker. I really like Lenny as Dr. Busker, and we'll get to why in a second. And the music therapy of these crickets that put her to sleep.
Yeah.
And at the end, she is awoken by Carrie in Oliver's suit, though, because Oliver has come and taken male Carrie and Melanie.
So there was a beat
Yes.
when they were talking about all their dreams, and because she was describing the dream she keeps having.
Yeah.
And male Carrie said, I keep dreaming of an ice cube. And then female Carrie said, I keep dreaming of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And I was like, the astral plane. They're in it. I was like, Oliver, please come
that's
get
so
them.
cool.
And sure enough, when the ice cube showed up, I was like, oh, it's Oliver. He's coming to get them. I was
Yeah.
So it
relieved by
feels
that.
like this world that they're in now
was created
in the astral plane, and that Oliver's coming through to get them. But in the end, it's Carrie coming through.
I think Oliver sent Carrie back. So Oliver took Carrie first, and then
Yes.
Oliver came and got
Melanie.
Melanie, and then he sent Carrie back to get, because that's what it seems like they're also going to explain that in the next episode.
Yeah.
I
as
hope
well.
so. Yes.
Totally
Thank
weird
you.
theory on the eye, which I like. Honto said Walter may be half animal, which is maybe why one eye is different, and how he can sense things that people cannot, like animals can. I like that.
I like
idea.
that a lot.
That's a good idea.
I think that's actually great.
That's a really cool.
Yeah.
And then maybe referring to David, Victor says in this episode he said he hates dogs. I thought he liked dogs. No, David just said I don't like dogs. Yeah. He didn't say he hated them because they're like, Autonomy goes, everybody likes dogs, and then he just goes, I don't like dogs. But that doesn't mean he hates them.
I assume that is in reference to
King.
growing up with King. Yeah.
Which is a commentary about him maybe not really liking King as much as being more afraid of King than on.
Interesting thoughts. Britt, the people in the chat, you are amazing for this hour of night. I am so impressed.
Yes, you guys are great. A lot of Vitsalsa agrees that they're in the astral plane, but he says that David took them there and Oliver's helping them to escape.
Oh, that's a twist.
That'd be interesting.
But the question is if David did it as a reflexive thing, like to save them, because Sid grabs him and says like the white room. But he could have also, as a reflex, helped the other people, too, because he doesn't have control over everything yet.
Just as a reminder what happened, right? The gun was being shot.
Yes.
And Sid says, take us to the White Room. They go to the White Room. She's then chased by the Yellow-Eyed Devil in the White Room, and he's panicking. And then they all appear here. So it's like when he was in his safe space, the White Room, so there are air quotes on the safe space, he panicked, and so he just sucked up everybody and brought them somewhere else that was a safe space.
So. Because Lenny references doing that for David.
Right.
And I think
with that weird lap dance.
Yeah. And the easiest way for Lenny to have control, the way that Lenny was able to have control over David the first time, was when they were in the astral plane. So I feel like astral plane is kind of Lenny's home turf to be able to like kind of manipulate and maneuver and weaken David.
And he's probably not strong enough to do that. And then,
sorry.
Yeah.
And then also they said, Melanie said about Oliver that he found a place where he could build his own world, and that was in the astral plane, and that's where he got lost. So that's why I assume that Lenny took them there, is because in that world in that place he can build his own world.
Which would probably make Oliver stronger because he's been there longer. He knows how to control it.
Yeah.
The other thing too is pointed out that Carrie, when he went to the astral plane, all his bruises came back.
Right.
Yeah, that was
So he went back to himself.
Now he's normal. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the burlesque routine.
Yes.
This was hands down. I think this is more my favorite moment of the episode. The therapy session is number 2.
Yes.
I'm going to go with that. But I have some notes. So I was reading the wrap, and so this sequence, Aubrey Plaza was directed by the script to simply rub her stink all over David's memories. And she said it was a weird graphic imagery, and I tried to interpret that. And she worked with choreographers, Vanessa Young and Janine Varghese. I don't know how to say it.
Vargas?
Sure. Let's go with that. Who worked on previous Legion sequences. So, like, I think the first
there was a dance
routine.
number earlier.
Yeah. And they worked with the director to come up with a sequence that showed off a new side of Lenny. They wanted to make her more feminine than she'd ever been before, and to ensure that she was exerting control now over the driving forces in David's mind. She takes the power in this particular episode. She wanted to not just have the feminine movement, but to lead with the pelvis.
I did notice that. Her walk, I was like, that's a very more manly, like, pelvis. It was very not a slink.
Yeah, it was a clump. It was
it wasn't a sachet. It was very much like a,
Anybody else get a Rocky Horror vibe?
A little bit.
I was
Because
just
the hair is more the hair with the silhouette and the fishnets.
Got more James Bond.
That's what I was thinking. An opening of a James Bond movie.
Well, the silhouette, yes.
Yeah. Right.
It was more her look that.
But Aubrey Plaza also went on, I think, Conan O'Brien, and said that the role of Lenny was originally written for a middle-aged man.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting, just the commentary of like how she negotiates the feminine qualities of Lenny with the masculine qualities of Lenny, because they also still implement that as part of her, that kind of more masculine touch in terms of how she dresses and.
And I'm happy to actually see her a lot in this season, because after the first episode or two, I was thinking, okay, she's one of those people that's going to be like in there really brief, and we were like, I think after episode 1 we were like, okay, she's dead, she's not dead, and then we're thinking, okay, maybe she just disappears, but she's been vital, and this kind of seemed to be like her episode.
I love her with curls too, though. Side note.
She looked good.
I love this character. I also love the idea that her character really isn't male or female.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she balances it so beautifully.
Yes.
So we have this big reveal that Lenny is like I wrote it phonetically, an Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, which is this bug that only infects ants.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
When the ant dies, I wrote it phonetically, guys. When the ant dies, the fungus sprouts out of the ant's head, which kills the ants, and then is able to spread its pores all over the jungle. So basically, that's the kind of parasite Lenny is.
Yeah.
And that David's father, whoever that may be, gave him up to hide him from this parasite, but ended up giving him his very own walking, talking fungus. And I really love that she points out that the idea was to just poison him and move on, but because they have both of their powers, which I believe you guys called that last week, that they're more powerful together.
Yeah.
Yes.
This reveal was amazing and was so great, and is what we have been working towards.
Yeah. It also made me think, though, if Lenny's the type of parasite that can, kill David and spread to others, what does that mean? Does that mean that there's going to be traces of Lenny or Shadow King or whatever in the other people once they wake up, or is it just something is going to latch on to them? So.
Well, because Lenny also points out, I thought I would just, leave eventually, but then, our powers combine.
Yeah.
You too can save the planet.
Go on. Tell me more about what happens when your powers combine.
All right.
No, that was good. But yeah, I knew your father, and it's what are you talking about?
Yeah. There's a history between the Shadow King and his father.
His
whoever
father.
that may be.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that was just such a fun reveal, and the way that this weird thing where the parasite latches on to David and latches on with her mouth and sticks her tongue in his ear, and it's the ear. And then last episode when she was
tongue in the
mouth, it feels like a bug.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh.
It feels.
Yes.
Just suck the
Sorry,
brains
guys.
out of them.
No, it's now, per the early episodes, before I had thought that the parasite had joined David when he was more like a toddler. However, there was a line, "We've been together since the womb."
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, so this is even earlier. But that's Lenny's story. It's one of those but what does that mean?
What does that really mean?
And do you mean literally since the womb, or do you mean since you were a baby?
Yeah.
Did anyone pick up on the picture behind them as all this was happening?
I
Was that
saw
autonomy trapped in the picture?
I don't think so. I saw that you picked up on it, and I was like, "Tell me what you see." I
thought it was either Bertonomy or Rudy, because there was just somebody trapped in a picture that I'd not seen prior.
I didn't realize every time we saw the bug, whose name I'm not going to try to say again. Every time we saw the bug and we zoomed in on it and saw it, the background in Dr. Busker, Lenny's office, was a forest.
Yeah.
The bug is on a tree in that forest. That's disgusting.
Yes.
We're indoors.
Oh, thought and a question for you guys.
Sure.
Honto points out the Shadow King is afraid of David. He's keeping him confused to keep David's powers in check. He thought David was an easy host when he was a child, but bit off more than he could chew, finding how powerful he is. I've kind of wondered that too, of it just seems like David's constantly in a state of I don't know what's going on. Thank you. There we go. Good work. Because so they can never get solid ground to actually, advance. It's always getting knocked down. Do you guys feel like the Shadow King's been doing that kind of a...
Yeah, because I think David's more
attack on
powerful than him. Even though their powers combined benefit the Shadow King, or the Yellow, whatever, that dude, Lenny. I think David on his own is powerful enough to overpower him. And I think that's why he kind of has to keep him off his grounding, off the footing. I'm tired. It's almost midnight.
Rick?
No, it's like David has this unharnessed energy. And and the Shadow King's always trying to just he's trying to squeeze it and make it and form it, but it just doesn't want to do. So like that's why he's he's having trouble. He knows it's like once I can harness this, then we can do something great together.
Yep. Yeah.
But he's like, I'm having a hard time doing it. He's like, why can't you just let me do this?
Yes.
I'm gonna take it back to what I said earlier.
Yes.
That when Sid was protecting David, they went to the White Room, and then David freaked out, and they all ended up here. I think that it was David that brought them back to Clockworks, but as soon as that happened, the Shadow King knew, now's my chance to take over because David's confused. So instead of the Shadow King going, I'm going to take everybody and remove them and confuse them, it's working. The Shadow King is working with what it's got, right? So like every time David does something, the Shadow, and it doesn't know what he's doing or how he's doing it, the Shadow King is like, well, I can take the lead on this, which kind of takes us back to the first time we went to the White Room, last episode, where David was like, I found a place where we can be together, and then we got there and David was super aggressive sexually, and so it was that we discussed that maybe that was the Shadow King taking over, and so I think that might be happening. That is a theory.
I think anytime we see the bugs on fruit, the last episode
they
was
had
bugs
another
and the strawberries,
yes.
and then this episode was the bugs and the cherry pie.
Yeah.
That's an automatic tell of, I think, the Shadow King. That's not purely David's creation.
Right.
So even with the White Room, I feel like a lot, because David doesn't think the power is his. I think a lot of the time it's the Shadow King using David's power and then presenting it to David as some type of gift. But it's David's power to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe.
I like that.
But it's a tainted power, hence the bugs, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do we like that love is essentially the thing that's stopping the Shadow King? Helena in the chat said love is so cliche, though. No, I love it.
I completely agree
Yeah,
with
I think
that.
it's so dumb.
I mean, it's adorable.
But wait,
sure.
I think
what
it's
if you go with how the Shadow King says that it's just, stuff in your brain?
There was this thing.
So essentially,
I reeled back when he said it, and then I was kind of like, but I don't completely disagree with you. So.
Well, if you
Super
look at it
simple.
of like his brain and controlling it, it's love per chemical and what's actually happening. That makes sense, though.
Yeah, if you look at
Not
the
necess-
actual chemical breakdown of love. But I think for Lenny,
Hopeless romantics out there, I'm looking at you.
I actually looked at the chemical breakdown of love. I did it as a project in freshman year of college.
Oh, that's
but
in the what the bleep do we know?
the oxytocin. Is an addiction. But no, anyways,
You guys
so
are killing me.
I'm just saying it's real.
Go on.
No, but I think Lenny is looking at love as terms of it being more of a distraction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just getting in the way of us being powerful. And that's, I think, how that's why they relate. It's because the eye doesn't look at love, he only looks at power.
Yeah.
And that's what Lenny looks for, too.
I mean, Lenny has that whole thing about all that matters is God, and it matters because God has power, and power is the only point of life. Which I was like, it's weird to hear a parasite on a mutant be like, God is the most important thing because of power. And I went, really? That's where you're going to start this argument? Like, I totally get the argument about power. But like, really? You, the parasite on the mutant, is going to be like, God is the most important? Girl,
Well, if we're
come on.
going with the theory of, like, it being... Never mind.
I was like, are you taking this to Apocalypse? Or
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, well, they kind of get that way in Apocalypse, and that's what made that
just
movie
the
not
whole
good.
idea of, like, the Shadow King and all that kind of stuff, and, like, what it is in the comics.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say anything else.
Well, something, and sorry if you haven't just gotten to it yet. The eyes looking in. So that's once Melanie gets in the room, the eyes see her, and then we jump back to Lenny, which was so great because then that really was like almost her binoculars coming down.
Yeah.
That was excellent editing. That's something I also love on the show is like how they jump cut around
And the visuals.
and the
visuals are
crossfade.
amazing.
Beautiful.
So good.
Lenny, when her burlesque dance starts
Yes.
and she's in the pie.
Jumps
Yes.
into red. Oh, yeah.
So great. But you're right, that sequence when Melanie is where we left everyone. And I like that her first instinct was to move the bullet and then it was too hot.
Somebody
And
said shout out to Quicksilver.
I
trying
was
to move it.
hoping
Yeah.
that's
I
what
was
was
like,
going to
can we
happen.
move it? Or like flick it?
but I love that because it's a freaking bullet, guys. It's gonna be hot.
Yeah.
Get
and then
something
when
else
she
to hit it.
Yeah.
and then when she tries to push them over, I was like, girl, what is your power?
Yeah.
Because you are useless right now.
I know.
This is true.
Put something in front of them.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I also was like, get a metal
Just
thing.
grab the eye.
Yes.
Move his body.
The eye's the
No,
one
Well,
he's
if she
shooting the guy.
can't move those two people, I
Yeah,
don't think
she
they can
can't
move
move, yeah.
him.
And the guy's the one shooting the gun in Rudy's body,
Yeah.
as we were.
Yes.
But Rudy's probably dead.
Yeah, Rudy.
Yeah. Somebody asked that too. Does he have to kill somebody?
We
I
discussed
asked
this
that
last
month.
week.
Or last week.
Did we?
Last
do we
month.
have? But we don't know for
We
sure
don't
yet.
know, but we
No, we don't know for
we
sure.
don't know for sure. But based on the way Rudy's behaving in
It's assumed he's
Clockworks,
dead.
we're assuming he's dead. That's
Okay.
a new assumption here.
Sure. Okay.
So the way the episode ends, David is thrown into a box, or David's mind is thrown into a box, and that's where we end.
It looked a little bit like if you ever saw Superman when they go to the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
They get stuck in like this mirror thing, and,
they just
and Superman
keep
too. Yeah, it
rotating.
kind of looked like the same thing, and then like they
Endlessly.
pulled him away, and I was like, oh, that's great.
Yes.
And then we also see Sid
Right,
come
Sid-
out as
yeah,
well.
Sid gets woken
Sid
up
gets
by
woken up by
Carrie in
Yes.
Oliver's
and
suit.
So now we know. At least 3 are out, but Ptolemy is nowhere to be found. That's why I think he's in the picture, lost in memory.
I see.
And then, okay. No, we're clarifying. We're not saying the Shadow King is an insect. He's just parasite by nature.
Parasitic.
And we're not saying he is an insect. We're saying
Yeah.
this is the metaphor that we are given to
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
how he works.
And also just how he physically moves when he's around David. Like he crawls
Yeah.
on top of him and
Right.
like molests him.
And gives you the heebie-jeebies.
Jarvis jokes. I think it's kind of a joke in the chat that Melanie has the power of teamwork.
She
As of right now, but that is essentially
Captain
power bringing
Planet.
people together. Yeah.
She's literally nothing unless their forces
Yes.
combine.
Yep.
She's a hero.
Okay.
Gonna take pollution down to 0.
She's
Yeah.
Did you just make that up?
no.
No,
no.
this is
That's the
Planet.
theme song. to
Oh,
Captain
really?
Planet.
I don't know why. It was so bad.
And on
It was
that
so
note,
bad. I was
It
like,
was
dude, I
so
can't watch
good.
it.
Let's go into predictions.
Yes.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So in the
Good show.
promo for next week, we see that Carrie and Sid are on top of it. Boy Carrie and Sid are on top of it. I love that he's explaining stuff and she responds and is like, I've been paying attention. That
Yes.
was great.
Yes.
And that she is like, I'm coming to save you, my love. Heck yes. I love that this woman who like has, as Dr. Busker has pointed out, has isolated herself, who doesn't touch people. This is the woman who is saving our hero, air quotes on that. Amazing. And we have Oliver's back.
Yes.
Yay.
Which is
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah.
And
That's,
he-
In the trailer bit for the next week, does he kind of break fourth wall? He's like, "Isn't that what I said?" And like looks at. It felt like he looked at camera.
he didn't look at
I mean, it was
camera.
small because it was like this on the image. But
Right,
I'm like, that would have been
right.
funny if like he goes, "This is what I'm telling you." Isn't that what I said?
Right next to the
That's
credits
how I felt,
scrolling.
yeah.
Well, because he said we have to save them. And Carrie
Yeah.
said we have to save them. Isn't that what I just said?
Yeah, I thought his head turned.
I do not know. It may have been.
I think
editing.
it turned and like when you were like, "Am I crazy?" I
Yeah.
just said that.
It just
I
looked-
said that.
it looked like that.
when you're
It's not Deadpool, guys.
Yes.
jerk. Yeah.
Predictions for next week or for the last 2 episodes? Predictions?
I think there's I don't know now. I think that David is gonna have to end up being saved. But I also think that by him being saved, it's gonna like unleash all of his powers.
Oh, I hope so.
And then maybe that might set him up to be the villain of next season.
Oh.
Really?
I like that prediction.
Wow.
Because isn't in the comics he's good and bad at times.
Yeah.
Okay. I from just the trailer for next time, I think there's gonna be a lot of action, which is exciting because this episode didn't have a whole lot of action. Though it was still really good. I hope David can come to some. I'm okay with him being rescued, but I want him to have some kind of self-realization because he seems to be making those baby steps to figuring it out, but they're very small baby steps. So I want him to kind of be like it all to click into place finally.
It's funny because
it's
I
like-
like him. I like that our main character can't really help himself.
No.
I like that.
But it's almost like someone with like addiction or something. Like he has to come to terms with it to actually break out of it. So I feel he needs to get all of those pieces to fall into place for him to finally like move forward more.
It's funny that you say that because it's kind of what he had said the opposite of to Sid when they were discussing why they're in the institution. When he was like, well, you're not really supposed to tell someone that they have this problem. So you want him to realize it without someone telling him.
Well, because they've already told him a lot already.
Yeah, and he's just not listening.
I mean, or Lenny's the only one who can kind of tell him in the ice cube.
Yeah.
Because he did start to.
You mean?
So, no, sorry,
mean
not
Oliver.
Lenny. Oliver, the other name.
I was like,
I was all, sorry,
Lenny in the ice cube?
Oliver. Because he did mention it, and then David had pause for a second. He's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, they need to have more time to, like, explain it.
Excellent. Rick, what do you think?
I think everybody's going to have a more of, because I think we initially saw it was just David that really had the interaction with Oliver. Now in this state, like everybody's going to kind of have like, and so like when they get to the real world, they can say, hey, we actually talked to that guy that was in the deep sea diver outfit that was all frozen. And then now that they've announced a season 2, my whole thing is, I think they're going to leave it on the big cliffhanger at the final episode where, hey, dude, by the way, this is your dad.
Or go back to my original theory that they're all a figment of David's imagination.
Bring in a whole new cast.
Well, so
whole new cast.
I totally, at some point in this episode, I don't remember when, went back to my first episode prediction that he and Sid are actually the same person. Because, right, that's part of his powers is that he
He can absorb other people.
Yeah, but he can also like be people.
Yes.
There could be 2 of him living at the same time. And so I go back to maybe in the end it reveals that Sid is another version of David.
That's another part of his personality.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That
Could be.
Maybe all of them are just different variations of his personality because they all manifest in different powers.
Yeah, we all love ourselves, right?
Yes. A lot.
Really quickly, did anybody hear the news about Patrick Stewart having an openness to appear in a cameo as Professor Xavier on Legion?
I thought you were going to give me some bad news. I was like, what about Patrick Stewart?
He was on Corden last week and said there have been some rumblings about Deadpool, but that he would be game for a cameo in FX's Legion.
Really? That's cool. Because he was pretty much like, this is it. After Logan, I'm done.
Well, I think that's, thank you, Mark.
But doing
for
a
the
TV
news.
episode is very different than doing a whole movie.
Yeah. I think, here are my thoughts on that. As much as I want that, I think if it's done right, it can be great. But there's like a chance of it not being done right and it sucking.
You think it should be, what's his face? Other one?
Who, James McAvoy?
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Not in the TV version. I would rather say Patrick Stewart for sure. Definitely not James McAvoy.
Yeah,
I would have to go to Patrick Stewart. Because if he's your dad,
any old age
it
makeup.
depends. It also depends on when.
Yeah.
Right. So if we see him leaving the baby,
it's gotta be James.
Then we could do that.
Yeah, like it really depends. Yes, Patrick Stewart, welcome. Yes, it also depends on the show and where we do it and how we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Predictions. I think I was explaining this to someone yesterday. I think the way this season is going is because at no point have they, like, the things that we've talked about that David can do has not been expressly said on the show, on Legion itself. They haven't figured out, like, he doesn't know and the other people don't know about all of the things that he can do. And I think that that's where the entire season is building towards, hey, here is who Legion is. And that's what season 1 is. And then season 2 is going to be, and now he's fighting a villain of some sort, or he is the villain.
Right. I like that.
So I think that that's where we're headed with this season. Will Amy survive? Is she real to begin with? Who knows?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Does he really have a sister?
He didn't really have a dog. So.
That's true. That moment, we never had a dog. But then if she's the one who said we never had a dog,
she could still be another part of his personality.
She could actually just be a figment of his imagination.
And where did telekinesis guy go from the beginning episode? Is it just
that's Rudy.
That's Rudy.
Oh, it's Rudy. Oh, okay.
Girl, where you been?
I'm sorry. I haven't been here in like a week, so like my brain's kind of.
We did talk about Rudy last week.
Yeah, we did.
And that we think he's dead now.
Very
so
highly
no
possible. Well, there you go. Prediction, I guess. I hope that they can figure out a way to deal with the bullets of either getting something to move in front of them or help. Because now if more of them are leaving the sanitarium area, maybe they
Clockworks.
can. Yes, name
The
is
name
important,
of the
but I know,
Clockworks is-
but
okay.
the creepy sanitarium place.
Sure.
If more of them are not there, maybe they can join Melanie and move people or something like that.
Well, so now Melanie is now out of Clockworks in
Yes.
the astral plane with Oliver-ish. I think, great prediction. The sequence where the bullets are, that scene in reality, I hope. I don't think we're going to get there until the season finale. I think all of next episode will continue battles in the astral plane.
Yeah.
I'm predicting that Sid gets shot in reality in the season finale because we can't move the bullets or her.
Yeah.
That could be
Prediction.
very happen too.
And then David rewinds time and saves her, or he yanks the bullets out of her body and heals her once.
Or realize that he is...
Well, David could get hit too. People were pointing out that when he was painting, there he had splotches on his shirt, so that could be blood.
Okay.
Foreshadowing
For it, and
Could be.
then people are debating if Rudy's alive or not, or unconscious, because yes, in the room, the eye had his body, but we don't know where his real body is.
Yeah.
And then because in Clockworks, he's the drool dude. So
Yeah. Oh, what
We'll
great
find out.
predictions. We have said basically, I don't know, this thing. Maybe. What about that? I don't know. This
I
is
love
the
this
best show. Legion, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Until next week. Adrian, where can people find you on social?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. You can also follow my show, The Magicians, with Kari, on Wednesdays earlier at 9. And then I do the unproduced table read in the morning at 10 on Popcorn Talk on Friday.
Carrie?
yes, my name is Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's KaridLane. And yes, we're on The Magicians on Wednesdays. Tomorrow is The Expanse. On Sunday is Box Office Breakdown, where we look at what movies come out over the weekend. Monday is now Time After Time, and a quick shout out to Paper Ronnie for this awesome scarf.
And I'm Rick Hong. You can find me on all social media at Rick Hong, RICKHONG. You can find me on The Expanse with Kari Lane. And this weekend, actually, we're going to be breaking down Iron Fist, which is going to be debuting on Netflix. And you can find me on Homeland as well.
You can find me, Yael Tygiel, everywhere at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. And remember when you said we all love ourselves? Check out my Instagram. It's a lot of narcissism. I'm also here on after shows for Grimm and Switch to Birth for the final seasons of both of those. Legion Wednesday nights. SVU returns next week. And Gay Weekly Roundtable Thursdays at 4 in the afternoon. That sounds right. Until next week, we'll see ya.
See ya.
Later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.